Hey, what is going on, guys? Cynthia here, and thank you so much for joining me here today for day 2 of this free Pinterest training. And today we're going to be touching on how to create the best pin. So we're going to little deep dive into how to create a pin that will help you get clicks and traffic to your website. All right, guys. So let's get started. All right, so I'm going to go over some of the basics before we dive right into the pin creative process. But for Pinterest, you need to keep in mind that the dimensions do matter, just because Pinterest is very different than Instagram and Facebook. So Canva, if you go on Canva to design your pins, they recommend 735 by 1102 pixel. Pinterest recommends that your pins should be around 600 by 900 pixels. And they state that pins that are larger than 600 by 1260 will be truncated, which means that your entire pin that is bigger than this dimension here, people won't see all of it as they're scrolling through their news feed. So you want to make sure that you stay within these guidelines. Super, super important. And also, Pinterest states that portrait pins get 60% more repins than landscape pins. So, very interesting statistics to keep in mind. I like to keep all of my pins a portrait pin versus landscape pins, just because it is 60% more likely that someone will repin it. So, you definitely want a lot of repins. When people share it to their boards, their followers will see your pin as well. So it's just more exposure and more traffic for you. All right, guys. So the next thing I want to talk about is designing a pin. You definitely want to use bold text that stand out. No one will want to spend time to click to your ad or your pin if they cannot read your text. Definitely want to also create headlines that are interesting, headlines that are boring. People may not be too interested in clicking through, so make sure to keep your headlines interesting. Also, make sure to use colors to make your headlines pop. A lot of times people have very great headlines, however, because their colors kind of blend into the background, people can't really read it, so it doesn't matter how great your headline is. People can't read it, they might not click through. Also, I recommend that you pick photos that are eye-catching and intriguing. Most of the time, people who like to look at the images might not be, too interested in clicking through and might just scroll right past through it if it's something that is a regular photo that they see on an everyday basis. So I recommend that you pick photos that are super, super interesting, super eye-catching to grab your reader's attention. All right, guys. So here I took a screenshot of an example when I go inside Pinterest. So we want to put ourselves into the shoes of other users who are using Pinterest. So imagine you are coming onto Pinterest and you're scrolling through and looking at different pins. And keep in mind, you're competing with everyone else on Pinterest. So you want to make sure that your pins stand out as best as possible. So if you look at this screen, right, what automatically pops out at you? Okay. So over here, this yellow pin over here immediately pops out because this person chose a yellow background, which pops. And it says the savings account pay, 20 times what your bank pays. Very interesting headline. It's something that I'd be interested in. So not only that the color caught my attention, but that the headline is very intriguing. All right, so here is another example. So say you're scrolling through again, here we are again, and I want you guys to see what pops out at you. And for me, it's this ad over here that pops out at me. It's this red kind of background, and it's not that the headline is interesting, but I like that they use different colors to catch your attention. As you can see, the other colors here, they're kind of just not popping out. So you definitely, again, like I said, mix up your colors, making sure that your pins do pop out. All right, so let's take a look over here. Here's another example. Immediately, the one that stood out to me is this one over here. This one does not contain text and doesn't have a whole bunch of crazy colors. However, the image over here is very interesting. If I'm searching for things like yoga, which is what I searched, this is very interesting to me. It's not a very common pose when you think of yoga. So for me as a person who's interested in yoga, I might be more tempted to click on this pin as opposed to this one over here because it's just more eye-catching. It makes me curious. Hey, what is this all about? So that's what we need to think about when we are creating pins to get traffic to our website. All right. So this is the number one question that you need to ask yourself every time you are creating a pin. Does it spark curiosity? Either your headline or your image must be interesting enough for people to be curious enough to click through. As we've seen in some of the examples, I showed you both the headline and images. So in order to do this, you make sure that you need to do some sort of research inside of your niche, okay? So that could be going through Pinterest or going through Google, typing in your niche, kind of learn more about your niche. Another thing is you can actually find free stock photos that are appealing. Like I said, you can go to websites like pixabay.com and type in your niche and go through some of the stock photos, see what is interesting. Also, create headlines that are uncommon. If you're going to create a headline that says, learn this dog trick, a lot of people might not be too interested in clicking on that. So you just got to be really, really good at coming up with headlines that make people kind of, hey, I don't know much about this topic. Let me go ahead and click on it. So the next one is using colors that makes your text stand out, or not necessarily your text. Playing with colors, using different background colors can also help your pin stand out as well. So also the play on the colors as well. As we just saw that when people are scrolling through, people do stop when your colors pop out. Another thing is you want to make sure that your title and description are properly optimized, because when people are searching for things like fitness, yoga, weight loss, whatever it is, you want to make sure that your pin is discoverable. Your pin does come up in search when people are searching for these things. So make sure that you don't skip out on the title and description. So inside of your title for every single pin, you need to include all of your main keywords so they're able to search for you and get to your pins. Also, the description is just as important. I recommend your description should be in complete sentences that describes your pin, while also including your main keywords from the title, kind of feeding into Pinterest algorithm saying, hey, this is exactly what my pin is about. So here's just some examples that I've created. So you guys have a gist of what type of title and description that you guys should be creating. So let's just say that you are in the, vegan niche, and you have a pin that says best cooking recipe for vegans. And in your description, you want to have around the same exact keywords as your title, while also kind of talking about what your pin or your article is going to be about. So your description will say, we have compiled the best vegan recipes that are easy to cook for beginners. Click below to check out our it's supposed to say our amazing recipes now. So notice that I put in also best vegan over here, and it says cooking recipes, kind of sprinkled throughout my descriptions just to kind of tell Pinterest, hey, this is exactly what my pin is about. You don't want Pinterest to be guessing what your pin will be about, things like that. All right, so other things that you should include inside your pin would be your logo. It's good for branding and also for authority. So when people are looking at a pin and you have a logo, automatically they would think that, this is someone that I should trust. It gives it authority, and I'm more likely to click through, right? And I also end with a call to action. So like I showed you before, I always say click below to check out the recipes. So definitely say something that, kind of tell them, hey, don't forget to click on the link if you want to know more about these vegan recipes. Always include a direct link to your website. If you create a pin, there is an option at the very bottom to include a link. You never know when people are clicking through your pin, even though you're not actively promoting it via Pinterest ads, you can also get that organic traffic. Also, you want to make sure that you include your pin to all relevant boards. Now, with boards, you may have boards that are very different, but also very similar in different ways. And so you can have one that says, cooking healthy, or cooking for vegan Thanksgiving or whatever. And if you have recipes that include both of the areas, you might want to add that pin to both of the boards to get maximum exposure. All right, so a lot of people might be asking me, well, what should I pin? What are some of the different pins that I can go through? Obviously, you can do your own research inside of your niche, but over here, I'm going to give you a few examples that I use myself. And for me, I basically mix my own content with other people's content to make my boards look as natural as possible. So when people come and look at your boards, they know that you're not very biased. It's not just all your pins. You're actually mixing up with other people's pins to make it look as natural as possible. So here are some examples of what you can pin. So if you have a blog about a specific pin, you can talk right here. I have an example of a blog article which says the best hot chicken salad casserole. It could be an infographic like this one here, 40-minute full body split, which has a lot of information. Now, for infographics, you probably wouldn't get a lot of clicks to your website because all of the information here is already on the pin. However, you will get a lot of repins using infographics. So it's there's a pros and a con, but I definitely like to mix up my content. Or you can just include stock photos that you find on free stock websites. Like this one, it's just a picture of a dog. If you're in the dog niche, there's no headline, there's nothing. It's just a regular stock photo. And one of the best performing pins for me are how-to pins. How-to pins are something like this one that I have for you over here. It says how to easily train your dogs, 10 commands. Something that's very interesting to dog owners that want to successfully train their dogs, things like that. So how to works very, very good. All right, guys, so that's it for today's video. I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. I just gave you some tips and tricks on how you can basically optimize your pins for clicks, optimize your pins for search, and also include some examples on how you can pin different types of articles, infographics, stock photos, how-tos to get that traffic. All right, guys. So if you do want to master Pinterest traffic, like I said before, I recommend you go ahead and check out pinformula.com. I'll take you from A to Z on how to master Pinterest traffic. And you get to join my free Facebook group where I get to answer all of your questions. So it comes with my mentorship as well. It's very hard to master a traffic source when there's no one there to help you answer questions along the way or help you along the way. If you join my program, Pin Formula, you'll get me as a mentor kind of guiding you through every step of the way. All right, guys. So that's it for today's video. Don't forget, tomorrow I will be sending you an email for day number 3's training. So look out for that email. I know you get a ton of value from tomorrow's training as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.